Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I am giving my overview of the Fist of the North Star collab. So, this collab is actually relatively old, and it's returning back to North America about 1 year later or so. And unfortunately, a lot of these cards were possibly strong at the time of its initial release. However, power creep is real, and pretty much all these cards did not receive any sort of buff or new evolution, so on and so forth, which has left them somewhat outdated, and it makes this collab have a lot lower value than it used to. And that is unfortunate because I think a lot of players are like fans of this series, so it may not necessarily do them justice. So I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not sure why there's so many fists, but hopefully you don't have to throw a fist full of cash at the rare machine to get what you want. So, oops, scrolling the wrong place. Okay, so basically the Fist of the North Star has one 6-star roll, which you can purchase from the Monster Point shop. It has 3 5-star rolls, which are reasonably strong actually, and then a whole host of 4-star rolls. And I'm just going to be going over all of them, basically just listing their pros and cons and how you can use them. Hopefully this video doesn't take too long, but there is quite a bit to go through. The corresponding post that you do see will be in the video description below. I would check that out because I'm not going to be reading directly from it, and it may contain more information than what I actually say on the video. So, first up is Urea, and just a forewarning, I mispronounce words often, or mispronounce names. So, this is Urea. She is the only 6-star roll, and you are able to purchase her from the Monster Point shop for 250,000 Monster Points. And she is a healer, which kind of goes against the trend of everyone being an attacker in this collab. And, oh geez, I think I made a little error on her active skill. Her active skill is supposed to give Heart's Skyfall. I don't know how I did that. But, one sec. She has only 5 awakenings, and that's kind of lackluster in today's meta, because most things now actually have, say, 7, 8, 9 awakenings by comparison. So it's unfortunate because it makes her less viable. Her active is actually spawn 3 heart orbs at random from non-heart orbs, and she also increases heart orbs Skyfall for 3 turns. I don't know why it's not there. Maybe it didn't update. I did put it in there. I swear I did. But her leader skill is basically a 56 times attack multiplier when you match 2 separate heart combos and at least 6 connected light orbs, so obviously you want to make it in a row. But that's a lot of effort for a relatively unrewarding leader skill because she's basically as orb hungry as Miru, and Miru is currently 49, will be like just under like 58 times in a month or so, but Miru takes 5 heart orbs and 6 light orbs for that row, of course, because you want to go for rows. And basically the same number of orbs, and they have the same damage output, but Urea has no damage mitigation, no extra health, no recovery, so she's basically a glass cannon that doesn't have that big of a cannon. It's just okay damage. So she's outdated at this point. It's not that powerful, so this is going to be a problem for players who do roll her because it's not going to be necessarily helping them that much. Like maybe if you're a beginner and you just start out, it's going to help, but if you're starting to get further into the game, it's not going to be that impactful. So she is outdated in my opinion. Like I would not purchase her for 250,000 Monster Points unless you really love the series or really love her thigh highs, because that's kind of her biggest draw right now in my opinion. So it's up to you if you do want to purchase her, but I strongly suggest you do not. And she doesn't have much use because I would not use her on a Miru team. Like, yes, it makes 3 heart orbs. Yes, there's a heart Skyfall, but her awakenings are meh. Her weighted stats are okay. But the thing is, with Miru teams, you already have leaders who make hearts, so why would you want to make more hearts? You need light orbs to actually deal damage. Like, making heart crosses all day is okay, is nice and all, but if you're not going to kill the thing, it's not going to help. So, next is, oh gosh, Roa? One of those, but he is, I'd say, the most powerful 5-star roll from this collab. He has reasonably strong weighted stats, he's got nice awakenings, and he has a very powerful active. He is basically the same as Antares. He changes hearts, jammers, poisons to fire, along with 1 turn haste, as well as forming a 2.25 times health, 36 times attack, team for devils and attacker types, which there are plenty of for fire. So he has a reasonably strong team, and he has a very powerful active. And when you have a leader who has an active that's 7 turns and provides haste, you're able to form a system. And this system can come in different shapes and sizes. If you have, say, 2 max skilled Scarlets, which are devils, so they qualify for the leader skill bonus, you are able to use 1 Rao or 1 Scarlet every single turn, and you will be able to cycle all your spells, as well as having your other 2 subs charge up very quickly. Conversely, if you use a full Scarlet system as subs, so 4 Scarlets, you can use 3 actives every turn and just simply blow up content. He's basically an improved Scarlet as a leader. He has the health multiplier and a much higher damage multiplier. So if you have a full Scarlet system and you roll him, you're going to have a fantastic team that can just push button and somewhat swipe and match your way to victory. The augmented health pool helps a lot because you are going to be significantly more durable, probably around maybe like 45,000 health, I'd say, in solo mode. So quite a substantial amount. Like, you tank hits, like your recovery's going to be trash, but it doesn't matter as long as you survive. So it will have niche uses. Could be good for like high level challenge dungeons where it's relatively short, possibly low mechanics, so on and so forth. So I think he's a very powerful leader. He'd even make a good sub because he has nice awakenings if he didn't have, say, Antares. So he is strong, and I think he's one of the better cards from this collab. However, if you're just rolling for him, there's not much value outside, so maybe a couple rolls, but it's up to you, to be honest. Next is Shiro. I believe he is the protagonist of the series, and at his initial release, he was very powerful. He was a rainbow leader with attack, like a 56.25 times attack and 2.25 times recovery. So that's quite good, maybe a year ago. Now, not so great. And the fact that Ace Horus has come out and gone, well, no, sorry, not gone, but it's currently here, he would have been a great sub for Kenshiro because that's probably your best fireboard refresh. But 56 times on a rainbow leader is not that great because the problem of rainbow leaders is you are always diluting your damage because you have to match other elements, which means you have less room for your primary color, and usually you don't necessarily get to benefit from rows. You have to rely on 2 prongs. Yes, Kenshiro has high attack and double 2 prong, but your other subs may not necessarily. So you are going to struggle with putting out enough damage. The recovery does help, but if you can't one-shot things, you're going to have issues, especially when you're a rainbow team. Because when you think about it, like, Raw Dragon and Sherry's Roots are all like 110 plus times multiplier. Like, that's way better, and Sherry's Roots has a much better active because Kenshiro's active is niche, I mean very niche at best. 100% damage void is useful, but not on your 2 leaders, and the fact that he had 7 seconds to orb movement time means his cooldown is extravagantly long, so it makes it challenging to actually inherit an orb changer on top of him. So you're going to be running a team of 2 leaders who are not going to be helpful. So I don't think he's going to get much play, especially nowadays. He really needed a buff or an evolution, or at least a rework to his leader skill. Like, just take out that orb movement time, like, so you can get a lower cooldown so you can inherit. Like, you really don't need 7 seconds. Like, you should not. Finally, for the 5-star rolls is Toki. So Toki has bind immunity, and he has a very interesting active because he voids all damage for 1 turn and provides a full bind clear. And his new evolution did make him a stronger leader. However, he's just basically a weaker Rola because he has a worse sub pool to draw from, and because he has a less helpful active for most cases. A full damage void or shield is useful, and as well as the bind clear, but you don't want it on your 2 leaders. I really can't think of a dungeon where you're going to really want to have that twice in an encounter. Like, you really won't. So having it on your leaders is problematic, along with the very high base cooldown, so it's hard to inherit on top of. Thus, he will be more so used as a sub or a skill inheritance option. He can transfer a skill to someone else because that void is useful for, say, large preemptives or huge execution abilities. The full bind clear obviously helps you get out of bondage or bad places, so that's where I would use him if I were to roll him. But other than that, it's not that helpful, and his leader skill is just not keeping pace with power creep, which is kind of the story of this whole collab. So, we're finally into the 4-star rules, and one nice thing about the Fist of the North Star collab's 4-star rules is that every single one of them has an evolution, which means they can be used as an assistant for skill inheritance. So some of them actually have unique and powerful actives, so being able to inherit them somewhere else is going to be helpful. So first off, we have Huey? I don't know, but regardless, he has an interesting amount of awakenings. Like, he has 3 Wood Orb enhances, skill boost, but the real bonus is the co-op boost, and that means he has 50% more stats when played in co-op. So that 650 weighted stats essentially translates into 975. That's a lot of weighted stats. Like, he suddenly, he looks good now. Like, the awakenings are obviously not as expansive as others, but he is possibly a decent sub on teams when playing co-op. And his active has actually a lot of value. He transforms the right column into wood, as well as enhancing all wood orbs. Now, if you think about this, let's think about Osiris. Osiris does the same column spawn on a 4-turn cooldown. Griffin, which is a farmable monster, enhances on a 3-turn cooldown, if I'm not mistaken. So, together that adds up to 7. And usually when you combine multiple actives, you tend to add onto the cooldown. But in the case of Huey, he only has a 5-turn cooldown, so he lost turns. So this active has tremendous value, and it means, like, if you're, say, playing Liu Bei with Dios subs, you can use him as a sub because he has that co-op boost, he has those enhanced orb awakenings, which means you have more damage, plus the fact that he also enhances orbs is beneficial. It's going to it's going to add a lot of damage, and with a 5-turn base cooldown, you are able to inherit possibly an active on top of him. Maybe, maybe not. But you still have the enhancement, which you want. So he's basically a much better Griffin because of the weighted stats and the triple orb enhance. However, outside of co-op and possibly really Awoken Liu Bei, he's not going to have that much value. Maybe like Ace Best Cat, or really just Ace Best Cat's another good wood leader, really, I can think of off the top of my head, is going to benefit from him. But other than that, he doesn't have too much value, but he can be used as inheritance as a damage enhancer potentially as well. Next up is Shirin. He is identical to Huey in the sense that he is the fire equivalent. He does everything the same except fire. So on Awoken Cow teams, you can use him after you say a Goemon or a Suture board, where it's the whole board is fire. You just enhance them. Powerful, stronger than Phoenix, basically. So value there, but again, outside of co-op and maybe those teams, not too much help. So Mamiya was at one point one of the strongest 4-stars for collabs. She has a nice amount of awakenings. Like, she does have 20% damage reduction to dark, so that does help mitigating, say, Divine Queen Hera's preemptive, or playing various other bosses that have strong dark attacks. She has a row and a bind recover, which is kind of random in my opinion, but her active is actually reasonable. She provides jammer and water removal into fire, as well as a max heal of 30% of your team's health. So that water to fire is important because she is a healer, and that means she can be used on Xiangmei teams. And a lot of Xiangmei teams do inherit Erd. So Erd makes fire, hearts, and water. So that means after you use Erd and then Mamiya's active, you are able to produce a 2/3 fireboard, and provided you have 9 hearts, you can blow things up. Also, that 30% max heal is actually quite powerful on Xiangmei teams because your team has so much base health. And that means like 30% of, say, 50,000, that's a significant amount of healing. That's essentially, what, 15,000? That's not bad. In co-op, it's going to be even higher. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much value outside of Xiangmei, in my opinion, because her weighted stats are so low. Like, 560 is depressingly low. So outside of Xiangmei, I really don't think you'd use her. Maybe you could use her as a skill inheritance assistance to upgrade another character's active to get that powerful water to fire orb change, but outside from that, not too much use in my opinion. So next is Ray, and Ray actually received a new ultimate evolution which changes basically nothing. He has only 3 awakenings, which is weak. He has a useful active. Like, it does get rid of the jammer and poison, so you could save sub-slots with full board changers if you inherit him onto someone else. Say you're using Blue Valkyrie, you give her this inherit, you're upgrading her active skill. Helpful there. But his ultimate evolution could have been better, because if it made him a stronger sub, he could have had a lot more value, because he got a buff to his leader skill, and it's for making 2 water crosses for a paltry 31 times damage. Most color cross leaders achieve that amount with 1 cross. He takes 2, and that's a lot of spacing. He has no time extend, he has no awakenings. It's not a leader, it's just pointless in my opinion. So he really either makes a niche sub or really an assistant for skill inheritance. Next is Juza, and he has the co-op bonus, which is powerful because he does have 50% more weighted stats. He has an interesting active. Basically, its application is for push-button teams mostly. You're able to do light attack based on your team's percent to 1 enemy. You do more damage at lower health, so it's useful on like push-buttoning through Monday Dungeon, for instance. Because you have that co-op bonus, so you do have 50% more at base attack, so you are hitting very hard. But outside of that, you really don't have much value. Like, the 1.5 times bonus to light attribute for 4 turns may have uses, like it is a modest increase, but it's not really worth it because you have better enhancing options, because you don't usually need the 4 turns of enhance. The main time I could foresee it being useful is to bait out status void preemptives, such as, say, Grizzar or Zerog Infinity. If you can't deal with, say, the mines, you can bait out so he does the status void instead. Niche, but it's worth mentioning. Other than that, not too much use. I feel that's something I'm saying a lot for this collab, but it is unfortunately a sad truth. So next is Rehaku. I think it's said that way. I see Haku, I think of a pretty girl that's purple. Instead I get a big blue man. Weird. Regardless, he does also have the co-op boost. He has that 1.5 times water enhancement for 4 turns, so again, you can bait out status void abilities with this, but he does 10 times attack of the entire team's value to a single enemy. I don't think that's even good enough for a push-button team, to be honest. Not a leader. Not much use, to be honest. I think he has less use than Juza, in my opinion. Next is Fudo. He's a big green hulking guy. He has tons of health because he's so solid. At least they made sense. They made a big guy, has lots of health. At least that made sense. But he has 30 times attack to a single enemy, whoop-de-doo, and same 1.5 times attack for 4 turns. Again, bait out status voids. Not much use other than that, to be honest. Shin, it basically took me longer to type out all this and format it than it is to talk about it, because there's not much to say. But I like the format. I think it looks easy. I think it's easy to read. I don't know, do you think this format's easier compared to other reviews I've done? Like, for collabs, I used to have, like, the boxes and everything, but I think this is tidier. But Shin does 77 fixed damage to a single enemy, so you're able to execute various monsters, and you spawn 7 light orbs at random. So this can be used to execute, say, a single pre-draw or a high defense monster, and it's probably most valued as skill inheritance options because his base stats and awakenings are so weak. But the drawback is he has the chance to override heart orbs, and right now we're in this glorious heart crossed light meta where you have Miru and Paimon, and using this active can at least execute a high defense monster, so it has value, but you may simply override your heart orbs and you can't activate, so that is problematic. So you have to find, say Saria Thor teams, or Su Min, who is getting buffed, the 4 Gentlemen guy. I may be saying it wrong, but may have value on those teams. But other than that, it's too risky, in my opinion, to use on a Heart Cross team. And did I mention that it executes 1 pre-draw? And that means the downside is it only executes 1, so you still have 1 left to deal with. Merp. Next is Shu. He has perhaps one of the most valuable actives of all the 4 stars because he replaces all orbs, and that means you remove locked orbs. It just goes, and all the orbs disappear and a new set falls down. So you can get combos for free, but the key is it removes locked orbs. And at this point, we only had 2 other options. We had Medjay, Kada, I can't say his name. He's a yellow Pantheon, he's the same Pantheon as Akachi, I can't say his name, as well as the Hello Kitty thing with the spanking active. Now, aside from those, that's all you have for skill inheritance. You do have King Mastering, but you don't want to use him as a sub because there's not much power in him. But you have another option to deal with Locked Orbs, and this was a huge issue for a lot of players when they're doing the 297 Zeus dungeon, which may come back in the future, you never know. And this means you can replace all those Locked Orbs and generate a brand new board. And that is crucial, so as an inheritant, he will have niche but powerful value. Other than that, that's all he's really good for. Next is Thouser, and he has one of the most unique actives I've seen actually so far. He is able to generate the middle row into light and the third from the right column into light. So that's spawning 6 plus 4, so 10 light orbs. And this is good for people who farm push buttons with, say, Machine Zeus. You would pop a Raphael or a full board style active orb, like orb changer, so say 30 hard orbs or 30 whatever colored orbs, and then use Thouser right after. That will allow you to guarantee a combo board to get through combo shields. This is only important for the hardcore elite farmers who need to mindlessly farm, say, Super Ultimate Annihilation Dragon Rush. I think I had an Annihilation, but the point being is it's only useful for people who do those crazy farming teams that need mindlessness because they're playing so many times repeatedly, and this guarantees you can overcome combo shields with ease without thinking. Other than that, not too much value. Maybe you can use them as an inheritance like on mono light teams, but it's kind of weird the amount of orbs you're producing. It's just weird in my opinion. And Judah, and finally we come to Judah. And Judah is not very good, to be honest. He has a 49 true damage to one enemy, and he spawns 2 wood and 2 purple orbs at random on a 5-turn cooldown. You are able to execute a single high defense monster, such as a pre-draw, which is great, but you only can execute 1, so you're left with the other one again. However, his, I guess, best aspect is you can execute the Dark Metatron Tamadra in Legendary Sea of Tears, because your damage is underneath the Tamadra's absorption threshold. That's kind of all it's good for, in my opinion. There's not much else it's good for. It's a single execute on a high defense monster. It's not good enough for push buttoning, so it's just kind of weird. And how often are you really farming Legendary Sea of Tears? Or how often does Dark Metatron Tamadra really spawn? So, finally, we come to the special monster point shop. You can purchase Rin for 100,000 monster points, and because she's purchased from the monster point shop, you cannot transfer her skill onto any other card, which is the only good thing about her is the full bind clear 1-turn haste on an 8-turn cooldown. If we could purchase a great bind clearing option that you can inherit, it would be strong. Unfortunately, she has absolutely no value as a sub or leader, and you would really only buy for the fan service if you truly love this series. Other than that, no value really. So, in conclusion, the Fist of the North Star collab is low value. The cards are niche at best. You don't have much value at the top. You have some value in the silvers, but they're niche. Like, you don't need them to survive and get by. It's not crucial to any team. They may just make certain scenarios a bit more helpful. Rao is the best leader of the bunch, but he is outdated. He still can clear a good amount of content. You can pair with Awoken Freyr to make a more recovery-based team, but it's just outdated. It doesn't have enough damage to keep pace. So I am not rolling. I usually don't roll collabs unless there's a lot of value, especially at the silver level. So obviously take my opinion with a grain of salt. I'm pretty much non-IAP or super IAP light, so I don't really have that much stones to play with. So obviously you can chase cards if you want. Like if, say, some of the 4-stars are really going to make a big impact on your farming teams, then it's worth to go for it. You may even luck out and get Rao. So let me know what you think of this collab. Are you planning to roll? How much do you plan to actually spend on it in terms of magic stones? And who are you trying to get? So let me know in the comments below. This article will be in the description as well, so take a look at that. Thank you for watching. Have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!